you're faced with different barriers, from barriers of languages, barriers of culture, and you find yourself in certain places and you're just like culture shocked and wondering how you can pave way through it. Well, it applies also to your life. Sometimes there are just certain things that just cause a barrier for you, and it just seems like you're not going to move ahead or forge ahead. So, how do you get over it? How do you move ahead? How do you overcome these barriers? How do you break these barriers? That's what Prudence Bruga, that's me, myself, and engineer Tony, Joyce, and Jemima. That's what we'll be discussing this morning. Good morning.
Morning.
It's nice to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have
You are your gang.
Please, nobody should come
Personal.
after me. Oh,
She's
I'm
to
not
say
a gang
personal.
member.
Personal.
gang.
On Christ,
It's
the
not
Son
personal
drop.
people.
I don't say
Squad.
gang.
Crew.
It's squad.
Oh, wow.
Squad.
Personal
Personal
My
squad.
squad. No, a gang is different from a squad.
What's it? A gang is not a bad
Who is
thing. It's
a-
just
They are all
group of people. That's it.
You're thinking it's a gang with, is it Capone or?
Of course, you have a gang leader. Even in today's life. Every day with Jesus is a gang leader. Do you know a pastor called me yesterday? He said, "One abunda kanama Joyce at today's life in." Say his wife now said, "Itama etana de baki." This thing that you do to Joyce on today's life, the wife now say she too, she's mouthy.
So it's balanced.
It's fit for that.
Pastor, keep calling on my behalf.
But then again,
I'm
his
going
wife is
through a
supporting
lot. I'm going through a lot. Pastor, keep calling.
but his wife is still
I know it's
Supporting
Pastor I'm
engineer
talking
Tony.
about.
okay. All right. So it's always, in fact, in life generally, we just always meet certain obstacles. We meet certain barriers. So we're talking about how we break through these barriers. But before we get to the story, the real gist, let's start out with barriers. What do we see as barriers, and how do those barriers come to us, and how do we find ourselves in situations that we can classify as barriers?
The fact that you are alive and you choose to live and you choose to have goals and you want to succeed is you saying barriers like come, because you can't get to that place without barriers. Are just stumbling blocks. They are those challenges. Simply put, they are challenges that we face while we navigate through life. And like I said earlier, if you have decided that you will not remain where you are, you want to grow beyond the level that you are, you will definitely face those barriers. It's just that we don't get used to them. Every day you wake up and you're like, why do I have to go through this? Or as you're journeying to success or to attain your goal and you're like, not again. Like, life does not care about who you are or where you are headed. Life will always throw death at you, be it at work, at home, as you deal with your personal life, your friends. Like, life will throw death at you. Death in the form of disappointment, in the form of betrayal, in the form of accusation. Like, life will always throw death at you. But for you to get to where you want to, like, you must realize and come to the point of recognition that, see, these things will surely happen. And that is why the Bible will even say that as far as we live in this world, you say you want to live, you want to serve God, there will be trials. So with success comes challenges. So, but you must be deliberate about, like, getting to where you want to get to. Like, you must be deliberate. Otherwise, these stumbling blocks, these barriers will just hinder you from going. There are a lot of people that decided to just throw the towel because they feel this thing is too much on me. I can't take it. Like, I so much trusted this person, and then I just woke up to, like, betrayal from this same person. I so much thought that, oh, this person is going to help me, and then I'm seeing that this person is turning his or her back against me. Like, I thought that life is going to just go all the way swell, the journey is going to be swell without any challenges. But why am I facing all of this? I remember back then in secondary school, while we were preparing for graduation, and then we kept saying that we're going into the wilder world, that we can't wait to get into the wilder world. And one night while we were conversing about the wilder world, everybody was sitting on his up bunk and we're just talking. Okay, so let's talk about wilder world. And people will say, okay, after school, this is what I hope to do. We've written jam while in SS3, so you already outlined that next year you're going to be in university. In 4 years' time, you're done. After you're done, service, this and that. Beautiful plans. And let's meet at the wilder world. We got the first shock. Like life through death at us. But the good news is that we didn't allow those challenges or the barriers to just keep us stuck, but we still found ways to navigate through all of these challenges. So for you to get to where you actually want to, you must break those barriers, and you must realize that those barriers, like, you're bound to face them. So it's just for you to make the decision to cross them, navigate through them, and all.
I see barrier as a cage that you are inside. How you got there is not the question, but you are inside that cage. And for you to come out of it, you have to break it. And you don't just break it by sitting and saying, well, I want to break this. I want to break. You have to make an intentional effort to be able to break that cage and come out of it. But then before you get to that point where you say you want to break it, you must have thought of how to do that. And then after breaking it, how do you want to sustain yourself outside of that cage? Because probably that is all you know. Living inside of that cage is all you know. So you must have thought about it and put one or two plans into action. Then you go out to want to come out of that barrier, and coming out of that barrier has bigger barriers out there. Challenges, you called them challenges. There are bigger challenges out there, because if you Prudence talked about language barrier. If you say you want to break that, it means you want to go out of your way to either learn how to communicate with people effectively, or just have a better understanding compared to where you were coming from. So breaking a barrier is something that everyone should be intentional about doing in life, because life is with challenges. And once you want to, even if you want to do something wrong, there are challenges. If someone wants to steal, there are challenges. So he must have sat down and strategized how he will do. And if any other thing comes his way, he wants to pull through and do what he wants to do at the end of the day. So whether negative or positive, you have barriers that are chaining you down, that are pressing you down. But the most important thing is the intentionality of coming out of it and sustaining yourself through it. The world looks like there is a box that everybody is supposed to just fit into it, and then you see just few people trying to come out of that box. Every other person is so comfortable just rolling around it, but certain people want to come out of it, and none of them have found it easy. It is about being intentional of breaking all of those barriers.
Barriers are not what people say you cannot do. They are the things your mind explain your inadequacies to cross them. On Sunday, you are going this way and you see a church will block a particular road. Why don't you just stay there till after service? But you know, it's either if you are driving, you reverse and look for another means, or if you are walking, you just maneuver. And sometimes they tell you they don't even want people on foot. So you go back and take a turn. But people get to a place where there seems to be a barrier, and then they sit down there and cry. When you can easily walk backwards, or take a longer route, or just do something just so that you can get to your destination. Barrier is not what anybody is setting for you. Barrier is what your mind is telling you. Because if barrier is something, or barriers are things that people set for us not to cross, how come we all don't have the same barriers?
True. Yeah, true.
Because somebody has a barrier of maybe health. Somebody has barrier of maybe making money. But there are people who have money. Where are the barriers when they were making their own money? So where are the barriers when these people were staying healthy? Where are the barriers when people were going to Bauchi, but you turned back to say they blocked that road? It's like they said there is no security on that road. It's like, but people are calling, we just got there. What happened? It was just one vehicle that hit a ram, and the owner came out and was shouting. And because of that, so some people don't even know what their own barrier is or are. Somebody will just tell you things are not working.
Yeah.
Things are not meant to work. You are supposed to make things work. You know, nobody wakes. You don't just wake up and then you live in a rented house, and then your landlord just calls you. Thank you. We just saw your rent. You paid your rent, and you didn't do anything. And then school will call you. Your children's fees. We are glad that you paid, and then you are not the one that paid. It doesn't work that way.
No.
I don't know why people sit down. This morning, I was just thinking, why are pastors, people who know the word of God, why are they complaining about how things are going?
Yeah.
Haven't we been promised that the end of time, are these not signs? So why are we speaking against them? Nations will rise up against nations.
Sure.
He's talking about the nation of this religion and the nation of this religion and the nation of this country and the nation of this country, brother against brother, sister against brother. Look at how Joyce is fighting me every day. It's fulfillment of, I don't have to retaliate. It's fulfillment of prophecy. If I see it as a barrier, then it will stop me. But you see, I have to be the bigger person than I am to stop responding.
Wow. I'm happy that we got to this point. I hope tomorrow.
This is a huge barrier for me.
I hope tomorrow there won't be back.
So you see, honestly, Prudence, you are talking about barriers. They are just things that people just put. People create them and say, I can't cross this.
You hear people say times are hard, like you say, and you're asking what exactly is the problem? Talk. Like the person does not even have answer.
No, go to your area. Go to your area, ba. Go to your area. I know I said bye in church, but go to your area and see if people are not building.
Oh,
Go to
A
Rainfield
lot.
where things are happening in Jos. Go to Wuse 2. Go to Maitama. Go at weekends and see if people are not spending millions. So is it not the same country where you are saying fuel subsidy has been removed? 1 bag of rice is this. Somebody is spending the money of that bag of rice in one sitting. 10 bags in one sitting. Every weekend. See, people must be deliberate about who they want to become. We have oversaid this on
Very
today's
true.
life.
Mindset.
You must be deliberate. You can't sit down and say, this morning I was coming from somewhere with Hassan. And I said, why are these people? They drove them off the road. Why are they coming back? You know, Ekwa with his Hassan with his Ekwa mind, he said, Oga, this is where they fit. I said, but it's wrong.
very wrong.
As pathetic as it can be, it is wrong. That is a road. It's not a market.
Sure.
Spaces have been provided for these people in the market.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why do you think if you want to buy something, why do they think if people want to buy something, they won't go and meet them where they are? They are thinking that the people that are there, you buy it before you get to where they are.
I think
And that
it's
is
just
the idea for everybody to be in the place. That's why it's called Market Square.
I think it's just that a lot of times when we talk about barriers, it's more like being narrow-minded. When you see
Are we not
barriers,
the ones
is
that are
that you're
supposed to
not.
be talking? You are supposed to be asking us questions. Okay, answer Reverend Williams-Burger. Go ahead. She has forgotten what she was saying.
I did not forget. I'm
Okay.
just trying to.
My squad. Personal squad.
Okay. So I was saying, a lot of times when we talk about barriers, it's more that we are being narrow-minded. We've boxed our imagination and our thought system to a certain box, and we don't want to cross it. See, for instance, what you're talking about and how we cannot even have the foresight of seeing that whatever is happening today is for the betterment of tomorrow. For it, that's in regards to those that were asked to move from the road to the market, to inside the market square. This is just the government's way of saying, okay, so we need to be more civilized. Let's have marketplace to be
Orderliness.
marketplace and road it is road. There's order in our states. That's what we want. But we are not even opening our eyes to see that it is for the betterment. If things are working out well, business will work well. But we don't even want to see that. That's a lot of times that's what happens with barrier. You find yourself in a situation and you don't see that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So you see that there's no reason why you should struggle anymore. There's no reason why you should put in more effort. There's no reason why you should think outside the box and bring in new ideas to solve your situation, because you have caged your mind, you have caged your thought system into a box, and you don't want to break out of it.
I
So-
like to agree with you, Prudence, because the difference between the haves and the have-not is just mindset. The developed countries and the underdeveloped countries, like it's our mindset. When you see we allow our mind control how we see things, the possibilities and the lack of possibilities. You're seeing that here is the road, but somebody has already created the barrier in his head that I cannot pass through this road. And he tells you that no, from generation to generation before myself, it has always been this road. So if this road is blocked, that means I can't go nowhere. And the person is just stuck.
Clear example, Joyce. Behind my house, there's a passage. So when I moved in, I said I was going to close it. The whole community fought me. The whole community.
But it's your house.
Yes, because there is a pipe. There is a waterboard pipe that brings water to the area that followed that place. So they said sealing it completely would be an issue, and it's a very thin road. Yes, passage is it's very tight, but people were passing. In the morning when you pass, you see all sorts of things there. So I decided, I went and bought 2 metal doors. Immediately they kept the doors, one this way, one that way. The youth leader came to my house and said, you cannot. That this has been a road for over 50 years in this community. You can't block it. So I said, sir, I bought this property. I can block it. Because tomorrow if a dead body is seen there, they will call me, you know. So they said they went to the chief, while they were going everywhere talking, I told my friend. So he gave me a truck of military men. So they parked in front of my house and then they sealed the road. They locked it. There is a door. So I gave the chief, whatever you call the hamlet, I gave him a key. I gave another person the key. I gave the youth leader a key and I took one key. So I said the day that there's going to be a maintenance or there is need to open that door, you use this key. You use this key. You use this. There's no way 4 of us will not be around. And you are a youth leader. So they would tell you, then you open. They refused. So the military men were in front of my house for about a week. When everybody got used to it, they left. Now, it doesn't even appear to be like there was a road there. At 2 a.m., you would hear people talking behind that place. People tried to block that road. It was a tug of war. But it was blocked. Sometimes it just takes courage to do what is right and nothing more. Courage. You see, barriers are found in every facet of life. You find barriers in your relationship. You find barriers in your finances. You find barriers in your health. But these are all barriers that only exist in your head. Okay, Joyce is walking on a path. I am walking on a path. She's looking for 100,000 and she's feeling like she's going to die if she does not get this money to register for her exams. And here I am walking on the same path with $1 million in my pocket. If there is a barrier, why are both of us not stopped? It only exists in your head. And sometimes I will tell, I say, why are you worrying over anything you cannot change? People that are close to me would hear that all the time. Anything you cannot change, don't let it disturb you. Because if you can't change it, in other words, it means there's nothing you can do about it at that point in time. But you know what? Life should go on. Life should go on. Some people will say, let me struggle to get it. Struggle. but don't look miserable doing it. It, you know, all these health issues that we are getting for ourselves, we are the ones compounding issues for ourselves. How can I be driving this car for 8 years? I've not changed the car, and it becomes a problem for you. Is the car working? Yes. Does it take you to the village? Yes. Does it take you to work? Yes. Does it take you to church? Yes. Do you move around with it? Yes. What is the problem? I've been using it for 8 years. So what? Of course, there's everything wrong about life looking like it's not progressing for you. You have to think, but not at the expense of your mental health. That is what people mostly don't. You see, they tell you that every morning from 7 to 12, they will block this road. Somebody will say they want to kill us again. Why? Instead of you to start thinking, where else? Where else? Okay, there is a...
Like a lot of times, just clear example, Sundays now, when you board a public transport and then some churches close.
The governor has stopped that.
Okay. So you see, the public transporters will resort to other
Go round.
Do you understand? But in life, sometimes you are faced with challenges that block your way. You need to navigate through. You have to find a way around. Sometimes you lose a loved one and you feel your life has to just stop. You can't move up. There are people that, because of loss of relationship, they have gone mad.
True.
Like they are struggling with health challenge. I gave an example of a lady. Till today, she's on drugs, mental health issues. Why? Because somebody that she had already put all her mind that they are going to end up together. They were always together, and she just woke up one day and had he pregnant another lady, and the parent of the lady brought her to his house and is married to the lady. She locked herself up for over 2 weeks. She was not coming out. If they had to give her food, they just passed it on beneath the door, and that's how she has been. The day she came out, or they burgled the room so that it has affected her mentally. This is over 15 years. She's still on drugs right now, and there's no other man like that wants to come and associate with you in that condition. So look at how we allow life barriers to just like finish us.
I was at a funeral with Hassan this morning, and in the church, the Reverend Father said that a woman was telling a Reverend Father that she became so old that God forgot about her because where is death? She wants to die. That death has not come. Life has become a barrier to her. She says she wants to die. Oh, that please, Reverend Father should pray for her so that God will remember her so that she will die. So to the extent that she started pretending that she's dead. So they will knock. She will not open the door. She will be sleeping. So one day, her grandson went to the room. They called her. She refused to answer. So he went to the room and he woke her up. He said, "What is it?"
Allow me to die.
She said, "Somebody is dead and you are disturbing the person." The same woman, the same old woman. She said, "Somebody is dead and you are disturbing." When somebody is dead, you are disturbing. But he said the same old woman, that same Reverend Father that she asked to pray that God should remember her and take her life. One day he was driving after service and she was walking home. So he drove with his car as if he want to hit her. He said she ran away. And he said,
Why is she running?
Granny said, "You said you want to die." She said, "You are a fool." She told the grandmother, "You are a fool. Do you think this is how I want to die? That this is not the type of death that me I want." She wants that quiet death that you sleep, you just that's what she wants. So barriers are only created in the minds of people. You see, the same show we are doing, somebody is wondering, when will they grow up to get to this level? We are here thinking, this is the best we can do. It's the barrier.
It's a barrier.
Whenever you think this is the best you can do on something, it's a barrier. That means there is a threshold to your growth level. When you hit that threshold, you can't move further. But it's wrong. It's wrong. People are excelling in the same venture that you are in. But your own, you say, I'm making 50,000 every week. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'll look for a house that will just accommodate my needs, the money I'm making. And no, there's room to grow. Whatever you can do, like I would always say, ask yourself, what else can I do? And when you start doing that one, what else can I do?
Yeah.
See Adam, God gave him 4 streams in the garden. Some pastors will write, they will preach, they will do deliverances, they are just Some people are just blessed. You see one person, he is capacitated to do a lot of things. He doesn't think about barrier. Are the barriers there? Of course, yes. But he doesn't think about them. He does not regard them because it is discouraging to sit down and focus your attention on what stops you from progressing.
You see that thing that people complain about that is not working. Other people are achieving success. Sometimes we say, this my job does not allow me time to do. You know, when people complain about, okay, not at, maybe let's say you've been trusting God to make money or be able to meet different needs, and you hear people say, oh, I can't even do anything because of my job. But amidst that job, you still find out that there are people that are navigating their way through and still making like money out of it.
Haven't you seen disabled people begging? But some of them are selling recharge card, selling this one with their hands withered. They are trying to sell you recharge card. You don't even collect change from. You rather help these ones than to help the other ones that are just seated. Go to Abuja on that Maraba road. You see people that nothing is wrong with them. They are begging in Abuja, Maraba, that Maraba, because there's hold up, they use it as an advantage. But you know what is not a barrier? Pregnancy, because they still give birth. If you have the mind to have 4 children in 2 years, I don't know how possible that is, but if you can have 4 children in 2 years, you should look for a job. You are smart enough. There are many things. You just see people sitting down. Their children will run, beg money and bring and give them. Run. How long?
I saw one.
And when you send them away, they will say you are not being fair. Give them something to do.
I saw someone, you know what they do now? They write. They go to these people that type, and then they type a whole load. Deaf, I have hepatitis, I'm married with 5 children, I cannot feed. Please help me so I can get drugs and then also feed my family. And one day, one dropped, and then I went through it. So you are deaf, but you got married and you gave birth to one. You have hepatitis, or there's a particular sickness he mentioned. You gave birth to 2, 3, 4. And you're saying you should be helped with money to feed your I don't know how, like you mentioned, there are still people that are deaf.
He doesn't have
and they have millions.
So
they are doing well.
You mean he doesn't have the right to have children? Because
I'm not saying he doesn't have
because
the same right he has to have the children. Like you also have the right to break through what you consider barrier.
It was you earlier that said, I think it was you that mentioned the mind caging people. You know, sometimes it's simple how you can just think of something and solve an issue. Somebody will go around. I was a consultant to an NGO. It's amazing certain things they call me on phone to ask me. And I'll be like, you people should know now. This simple thing you are calling me. And later they will send me money. They will say for a consultation. I'll say, bring more questions. But you know, God dropped certain things in you that people are paying to take classes for.
True.
Certain things that are easy, you just provide a solution and just move on. People be like, 3 days now we have been struggling with this thing.
And you know, sometimes knowing the reason why the barrier is there is also a way forward, is a progress. Knowing why it is there. Sometimes you go to organizations and you hear that, okay, no, they don't want a lady, they want a male. Or you go to other places and they say, no, they don't want guys they want to hire ladies. Like, if you have all of that they need, there shouldn't even be a stage that they would say, okay, we don't want you, we want you. They won't even look at your gender at that point in time, because what you have to offer is way beyond your gender.
I prefer working with ladies because they deliver more than men. Some of them.
Some.
They deliver. The rest of them they are just caught in this web of I must say something, and he or she must respond, and it becomes a conversation at work. That is also a barrier.
True.
You know, there are barriers that God Himself will set just so that He can deny you reaching that goal that you have set for yourself, because He knows that will be detrimental for you. There is a way that seemeth right unto man, but God knows the end of a matter from the beginning.
Yes.
So He knows how destructive that can be for you, and no matter what you struggle to achieve in that, you see, God is the one frustrating until you take a new leaf and start facing another direction. Then you see prosperity coming. So it's not every barrier that is evil.
No.
Because there are certain things you can
Some
never
barriers
see.
are just redirecting.
God will just put put it your way and say, this business, you will die before. Because a prophet one told me one time, he said, even if you like, put 1 trillion in transport business, you will not make it. He told me. So I tried. One time I was working with someone, a state executive, and then he bought 100 buses for a project. And then after the project, I pleaded to have a few so that I can do transport business. And he said they should give me 10. Of course, they didn't give me, he said they should give me 20. They didn't give me, they gave me 10. So I put them on Abuja Road. It was when drivers started showing me reggae and blues that I remembered what that prophet told me. I will go to Wuse with short, so because they will just call you, this car has broken down here. Because I told them, anytime a car breaks down, don't do anything. Stop there and call me. I'll come to the place. That's the only way you can deal with drivers. Because sometimes they will just call you in the evening and say, I didn't work today because I've been at the mechanic since morning. So I told them, anytime, 10 of them, I said, anytime one vehicle is broken down, where the car breaks down, call me, I'm coming there. So it reduced 50% of the wahala. Some of them will still not call. But this is why I was telling you. This man told me, he said, transport business is not yours. He said, don't do it. Several years later, I found myself in transport business. I suffered. They suffered me. All these white thing you are seeing is from that transport business several years ago. So I started selling the buses, brand new buses. Jamima, brand new. You didn't have a reason not to give me that 5,000 a day. 18-seater buses. Some people were paying 10, 15,000. Then I said, no, give me 5,000. Sometimes they will bring, sometimes they will not bring. We will leave my house at 1 a.m. If my wife is watching now, I'm sure she's laughing. She's mentioning their names one after the other. We'll leave my house at 1 a.m. I had the numbers of their wives. Because their wives were also looking for their husbands. Since I gave them new cars, they were not at home. So one of them will say, he just came back, 2:30 a.m. He just came back, and then I'll call police. We'll start driving to only God knows where to be looking for this man. One of them told us that he had an accident, he broke his leg, so he traveled to the village for treatment. That is his conductor. So I called the wife. I said, your husband had an accident. She said, which accident? That he's living with one girl, so place. So they warned me about transport business, but I put myself, you see, there was a barrier that was divine.
No, they are actually
yes. They told me I refused. But you see, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., some will go and catch them in the nightclub. They are spraying money. My own money. Give me my own 5. Spray the rest. But that was how we did and suffered. I started selling these buses one after the other until I sold the last 2 to a school. They are using it to pick their students and all that. Then I remembered. This prophet told me, he said, any other thing you do, you will flourish, but not transport business. And I had a good job. I was doing my business then. Why did I should have sold these buses, invested the money into my business. He didn't have to know what I was doing with the buses. So you see, there are barriers that they will tell you, this place is blocked. At least you have been informed.
Yes.
Oh, they told, like the story that Joyce is saying about the lady that for 15 years now, she's not, even the Joyce, we struggle with her. We told her, this person. She said, no. Me and the mother spoke. We prayed, Joyce, this person. She said, if it's not Jibrin, she's not going to fall in love. We did. Jibrin show her reggae and blues.
It's not this Joyce.
But
so
God help
believe,
us. It was 6 weeks or so.
If you believe this one too is one of the barriers in this life. People just say all manner of things about you and you're wondering.
I'm now people.
No, sorry. You see, I like the angle you came from.
True.
Because if we don't deal with this, people will keep suffering, thinking that no, it's life that is against them. Some of the barriers that come our way, it's like we allow them to keep us stuck. Like life, I said earlier, it will always throw death at you in forms of disappointment, betrayal, like lack, different ways. But you can break those barriers. You can decide to navigate your way through still to success or to where you are headed or to attain or achieve your goal. Now, for example, you are into business and then, or you're just living and then you're saying, oh, life is hard, there's no money anywhere, people are just suffering. And you just give us an example how that, go for a weekend and see how people in other places and see, or take a walk and see how people are spending money. Go around town and see how people are building. Why is it that they are building when you are saying that there is no money? Because do they have barriers? How were they able to navigate their way through? Because you are still living in the same world as they are. These people also faced those barriers, those challenges, but they dared. While you are sleeping, other people are not sleeping. Like till today, when you go back home, just generally, you go back home while you are asleep, another person chose that, see, because I don't want to wake up and go to another person's house to beg for food. I will, if it means that I stay awake, like to get more information, to study, to do certain work. Like, there are people that their job is just to edit, for people that write books, for people that write papers, for people that do research. So while others are sleeping, they are saying, beyond my 8 to 5 or my 8 to 4 p.m. job, I want to have another stream of income. So while people are sleeping, they are trying to do other things so that they can earn more. And so while other people are saying, oh, life is hard, life, you can't afford it, they are having, like, they are getting money, they are earning, and they are doing things. I had a lady share a story how that she lost her father. At that point, when she lost her father, she thought, like, this is going to be the end of life for me. But she got to a point that she realized, she decided that God, just speak to me in this situation. And she got to the point of accepting what happened to her. And from the moment she accepted that, God kept pulling her through that pain and helping her see the brighter side of everything. And that was how she kept growing and moving. There are other people that lose their loved ones, and the next thing is that they just give up on life. Either they kill themselves, they commit suicide, or they decide to go mad because they think that their life, like, they can't live outside of that person. So some barriers, we decide to keep ourselves stuck and allow the barriers keep us stuck from growing or from attaining whatever height we want to. But some other barriers, like, God allowed them to happen to us so that he will save us from some troubles. Yesterday, if you follow on the living room, Reverend Farouk shared a story. I mean, he lost a job that he got, and God used him to uncover some things that were done in that, like, company or organization, that the people that own it thought that it was blossoming, but unknown to them, there were a lot of things that were going on that were not right. And so when he came in on board, they were like, no, this was not what was happening. The person that was here before was like that, like that. And he said, no, you have been fed with the wrong information, and this is it. But it got to a point that he lost that job. Not because he was not doing the right thing, but because, like, some people conspired for him now, according to the story. No, they said, okay, he said, but based on the book, the only condition that you're supposed to sack me is this, when I violate this and do this and do this. But I didn't do any of this. So why are you? And then the person couldn't, his direct boss now, he couldn't just point his finger out anything that he did wrong, that this is the reason. But he just told him, I'm sorry, you just have to go. And that was how he got sacked from that job. But do you know, a day came, he said that, like, that was supposed to be a day that if he was still on the job, he was definitely going to fly to that particular country or that particular occasion, something like that. But the people that traveled that very day, there was a plane crash, and I think everybody died. So just think about it. If he had the job, of course you'll be part of it, and that would have been the end of life for him. So sometimes certain things happen in the
divine barriers.
Do you understand? These barriers are divine. And then you just think that the world is against you. You are crying, God, why me? And all those kind of things. But you know that God is saving you from one catastrophe that might just distort or even end your life.
Okay, so yes, very true where you're coming from. And I love the fact that we spoke at length on this aspect. But I want us to quickly just say this. We're talking about breaking these barriers, and we've talked about how some of these barriers are divine barriers and how some of these barriers are just because we refuse to do the right things. So at what point do you know that this barrier was actually a divine barrier? That's what I want us to quickly say before we come to the end of the show. For instance, what Engineer Tony was talking about, if he had not even been told, he said he literally forgot that the man even said something like that, and he went into the business. But at some point he knew that it was time to let go of this business. and channel my energy to something else. So at what point do you know when it is time to let go of something and channel your energy somewhere else, or to forge ahead and continue in that line of business? So at what point do you know, so that you're really able to break that barrier? As at what point do you know when you should put in more effort, or when you should just take a step back and leave?
All right, if you ask me, simply put, study. Like, study the scripture. In the scripture is like, the scripture is all encompassing. Be it the barriers of life that just keeps us stuck, or out of our laziness, and not like out of our laziness, we just don't want to break the barriers, or be it divine barriers. I would like to say that in life, like, don't hold on to anything so tight, because sometimes, like the example of the lady I spoke about, relationship, when she lost it, she went like she developed mental issue. Why? Because she held to that relationship so tight that she felt, oh, my life depend on it, and then if the relationship is not there, I'm gone. We even say that in relationship. Oh, you're my life, you're my this, you're my this. If you're not there, I'll die, or I cannot live without you. Like, you find people using those languages in relationship. And so when it happens that the person is, maybe the person traveled to another state, or he sees another lady, or she sees another man, and she decides to follow, and then you are like, I'm dead, I can't live, like I cannot live without so person. So don't hold tight to anything. Sometimes some of us, we hold so tight to material things that when we lose them, it might even be your job, like you feel like outside your job you are gone. So if you lose them, you find yourself losing yourself as well. And when it happens that it is born out of laziness, that you are faced with barriers, and you are like trying to give excuse, like the lady that said she will never forgive her father that is in the grave, that for not training her in school, that if he had sent her to school, that she will not be a messenger, like people will not be sending her up and down in her organization where she worked. She picked the job. Oh, they said they needed a messenger, and she applied, and she got the job. But she's now saying that because everybody is sending her, that she will not forgive her father if he had trained her in school. So some of the barriers we face is born out of laziness. I remember on this set, I said one day, sometimes when you grow to a certain level, that if you need to re-raise yourself, please go ahead and do that. You've come to the point of realizing that some of the things that you were taught growing up, or some of the things you learned by virtue of the environment you grew up, like, were wrong ideologies that were planted in your head. Now you have come to the understanding that this is reality and this is the way. Re-raise yourself. Like, you've studied the word, and you've come to that point of understanding that this is actually the way to prosperity. This is actually the way to live. But this is what society have dropped in your head. Re-raise yourself. You can't keep pointing fingers. You can't keep faulting people. You can't keep finding faults. And sometimes you have to just navigate your way through to that success. You can't be part of those people that are speaking like negative about themselves. It was late Joyce that said, if we keep saying or using the word, oh, fingers are not equal, it's common. People use that to like press or support their laziness. All fingers actually are not equal and all of that. Why must you be the shortest? She said that, why must you be the shortest? Why won't you be the longest if all fingers are not equal? So we can't sit down and keep blaming or pointing fingers. Take responsibility. Re-raise yourself. And if these barriers are actually divine, by studying the scripture, you find out that I'm not supposed to even hold tight to anything in the world. It was King Solomon, after attaining the height, after getting everything, like, what has he not seen? But he said vanity upon vanity. And by virtue of studying the word, you will also understand that in this world there will be trials. So when I'm faced with betrayals, when I'm faced with like disappointment, I know it's part of life. So it should not deter me from moving. It should not deter me from growing. Like, I shouldn't even be surprised. Yesterday on this said when Jemima decided to do like this, and I said I'm not surprised, because in life,
like this, what is the name?
People are watching. Please tell them.
Explain what
Exactly,
is
like this. Let's
they are
speak
here.
clearly.
Just when you trust the person and the person is here, tomorrow the person just say, no, I'm not with you, I'm here.
Jemima, your life is upward and forward in Jesus' name.
Thank you, amen. Well, I would say that you do the best that you can. If it doesn't work, you let it go. So you don't get to a point that you feel like, okay, this one didn't work, that one didn't work, because you're still holding on to a different one. You do the best that you can. If it doesn't work, you try something else.
You have anything to
I
add?
don't. In hallelujah in Yoruba shida abun fada.
Haba.
Okay,
Wow.
so honestly, I really just agree, and I actually support what the
Sounds like you are speaking on my
Joyce.
behalf. Since I didn't say anything. Go ahead.
Why do I feel
Say
picked
it,
on
say
on
it,
this
say
show
it.
today?
We have missed you on the show.
That's true. So
You can feed it.
I can feel it.
Okay.
Yes, I'm feeling it. So, what really, it's really important that we do the best that we can. We put in more efforts we put in the efforts that we can. And that does not mean, even in putting in efforts, sometimes we put effort and we begin to think that we've reached our threshold concerning certain things, but we can do better. So, in that kind of position, try to see that you have reached really your elasticity before you drop it. Just like Jemima is saying, sometimes circumstance actually tells you when to drop things and let go. Circumstances, for instance, Reverend Farouk's own circumstance told him that it was time to move on. For some people, it was divine conviction, and that's because they studied and they were close to the source. So a lot of times we do things and we're not directed, and because we're not directed, when we're faced with barriers, we are discouraged or we are deterred.
We're bitter,
We're
angry,
bitter and angry.
full of resentment. And I think that's one point he mentioned. When you're faced with barriers that are divine, for example, you lose a loved one or your property or maybe job or something, like, don't be bitter. Maybe hatred, backbiting, betrayal. Don't be bitter in it. Like, don't live in anger.
True.
Don't live in resentment, because that can also deny you of the blessings that maybe is there after. So think about it, that he kept fighting the person that, for example, like sacked him, and then, or he went through another person that has the power to bring him back or to remain in that position. Eventually, he will have been part of the thing that will fly
Yeah,
to
then-
wherever and still. So in that, while you're facing such barriers that are divine, for example, you don't live in bitterness, you don't live in resentment. You just trust God to just take charge. Because what do you call a situation after studying so hard and then you see yourself failing? Like, you answered the question correctly, but because the person is saying, I want to see you after class, and you refuse to go and see the person, I decided to fail you. Like, if it means you write the exam, write it. I remember when I was running my diploma programs, I wrote exams, but eventually when the result came out, I don't have a result. When I went to meet the person, apply the lecturer, right? And I wrote, and next thing, to who is interested, your stupid name, get out from here, and he threw the paper. I went outside, I was crying, and one of my friends came and said, why are you crying? They said they've not seen your result or you did not write. Go and register and write it again. And I just cleaned my tears. I went away. When the next semester came, I registered because I wrote and I passed. So in that, don't live in anger or in bitterness who deny you of the blessing. So just trust God to take charge.
Carry over.
It was an omission.
Yeah, I'm just talking to Jemima.
It was an
I'm just
omission.
talking to Jemima. Can't I talk to my sister again?
Does it define, even if it was, does it define where I am today?
Exactly.
But you're
Thank
not
you.
Jemima.
People were in
Maybe I'm
class.
talking to Prudence.
People were in class. Some people were not in class. Carry over.
I thought you were about to end the show.
I am actually about to end the show, but before I just end it, sometimes circumstances throw things at you, so we understand in those kind of situations.
So in
No,
essence,
I'm
what are you
actually
saying?
backing you up.
See the person you're
I was
talking
in a
to.
similar situation with
See
you,
who
so
you
I
were
understand.
Oh, you had carry over too?
Barrier. Language barrier.
This is language barrier because she's like shocked.
This is result barrier.
Life will throw death at you indeed. Even on this set, I'm faced with life barriers. But I will navigate through. Me, I will navigate through. On you and who? On Christ the solid rock. All other grounds.
Don't worry.
Where was the
No,
solid
don't
rock
point
when
to
you
the
had
video that
carryover?
was-
The solid rock was still
I
there.
never had carryover. I never
It
had
was an
carryover.
omission.
Yeah, I
I
rewrote the
never-
examination,
I
but I
never-
never had carryover. Let us close the show.
I never had carryover. Go and
That's
check my
about
history. Go and check my history. I never had
That was
carryover.
about that is about it on today's show.
Barriers everywhere.
Lovely discussion. Trust me, these barriers will continue being here
We'll
because
carry it over to next week. Let's register
this is
next
what
semester
makes the
next
show-
week and
this
rewrite.
is what makes the show
We redo
interesting. So just make sure that you have a date with us tomorrow on this show. It will be a lovely, lovely discussion.
Remind
you know
them
Wednesdays.
of the carryover next week.
You know
Tuesday.
Wednesdays.
I'll
Plus,
go
we are
and
going
check
to have
your
a
records.
carryover next week.
I will ensure that I go and check your records in school. Investigative journalists can go any length. You know that, right?
End the show, don't
I'll
worry.
bring it on
All right,
today's
thank you
live.
so much, Joyce. Thank you, Engineer Tony. Thank you, Jemima, for doing
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you at home for staying with us. It has been a lovely ride. Thank you, and make sure that you join us tomorrow. Make sure you would not regret it. I promise you that. So see you tomorrow. Bye.